Cat, it's Maximus here again, this time with a quick review of the Husky, Home Depot Husky, half-inch drive 6-point impact socket set. We've got both the metric and the imperial. A lot of my reviews, or almost all the reviews of sockets or wrenches I have both in metric and imperial, but a lot of times it's easier just to dig up one set. With the larger sockets, it's easier to dig up both sets. Simply because as most people would, have far less half-inch sockets than they would 3/8 or 1/4 inch. 3/8 is definitely the most common. I'm going to save that for last. These started out as, I believe, 11-piece base sets. I've added a few filler sockets, so we'll be able to compare them against other sockets. Also, these were some of the first impact sockets I purchased, probably 15 years ago. And they've held up great. I don't know if they're quite the same quality. They look basically the same now as they did back then. There was some rumors that they weren't quite the same quality, but I'm not sure. But these have really proven themselves to be much more wear resistant and durable than a lot of impact sockets I've used. Let's go ahead and take a quick look. We'll take a look at the imperial set because, well, no, we'll do the metric set so you can see what some of them look like after more wear, and then we'll compare them against a few other brands. Well, we'll start right here because these dark ones are the Huskies. And you can see the drives really have held up pretty well, like on that 14 millimeter, 17 millimeter, 19 millimeter. Those are very well used sockets. You know, they're almost all the industrial finish is almost polished off. And look, they're just not totally all rounded out and beat up. If we look at the back end of the drive, it's not too bad. You know, I've treated these well. But still, they've really proven themselves to be quite the nice sockets. And so let's take another, they don't flute the drive square end. I don't know if I showed that well enough, but see, it's not fluted there, but their operational end is is fluted. And let's compare them against a few other sockets here. We have a Proto, we got a Sunex, we have some of these Ingersoll Rand impact sockets, and then here's a Husky. Okay, so here we go. We've got our Sunex, our IR, our Proto, and of course the Husky. So profiles are all pretty similar. The Proto is kind of nice because they use a very steep angle on the underside sockets, but they're still pretty good. As far as height, they're all exactly the same. As far as the, centering and countersinking and all that, you can see that the Husky here on the right is, as good as any of the others. I mean, when you get a decent pair of sockets, it's really hard to tell just by looking at them, the quality. And overall, there's less and less difference between the most expensive brands and middle brands. There is a lot of difference between the cheapest and the most expensive, but not in mid-grade, where it's kind of the sweet spot. We also compared outer diameters. That's where some of the cheaper sockets do show where they save money, is the billets they use are a little bit smaller, and so they can shave a little bit of mass. I guess it isn't fair to compare the Husky 13 to a 9 millimeter or to the 12 millimeter, even though this is 1 millimeter larger, the whole body of the sockets. If we just line up one edge, you can see that there's a lot more meat on that Husky. If we compare it to the Proto, we'll find that this is a Proto 8 millimeter half-inch drive impact. So you wouldn't use this often. That would be breaking a lot of 8 millimeter sockets. But this is the smallest, and it is almost as thick as the Husky, versus the larger Sunex and IR sockets, which are significantly smaller. Both of those are smaller than the Proto. So that gives you an idea, showing that the wall thickness and the billet thickness was actually bigger than what would be the minimum standards that you could get away with for more budget-conscious sockets. And so that was another aspect of these that I liked. And one of the hard-to-see points that can distinguish better sockets from not-so-quality sockets is just the amount of material, physical material that they're putting into them. More material means a stronger socket. And I was going to mention that. We'll take a look at the Imperial ones for this look. We did show on the metrics, but these Husky sockets also have really like extra thick walls. And I think that was part of the specifications. These are impact sockets. A lot of contractors are buying these to use for construction work, either doing some type of iron work, or running, large construction fasteners, bolting large pieces of wood and other accessories around buildings. And carpenters and stuff, when it comes to the sockets, they'll just, get it done as quickly as possible. And it's really as tough a conditions on sockets as any mechanic. And so these are kind of intended for that. And so the square fitment is also really nice. And we have an ironworker's ratchet here just to show them. And I guess that's about it for the review. But I do appreciate you guys watching and would definitely recommend these Husky sockets if they're the same now as they were before. And ask you to please subscribe. Catus Maximus out.